Welcome back. Following crippling as stage 6 rolling blackouts, President Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to make an announcement soon around government's plans to deal with the power crisis. Two ideas have been made public: the idea of another Eskom or Eskom 2, while the National Planning Commission has proposed the declaration of an energy emergency. Well, never mind the power cuts that are severely hampering economic growth. It comes as rating agency S&P says Eskom is under growing financial strain, saying it may need to raise up to 45 billion rand over the next financial year. To discuss, we're now joined by the CEO of 360 Global Solutions Group, that's Khandani Msibi. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Msibi.
Thank you for having me.
So 360 Global Solutions, effectively the investment arm of our biggest and a very powerful trade union, NUMSA. Are you therefore aligned with NUMSA in terms of the decisions you make, the investment decisions you make?
I think we operate as an independent organization from NUMSA. We submit in terms of being owned by a trust that is owned by NUMSA, but the investment direction of the organization is directed towards where we see the greatest of opportunities. Yeah. For instance, I mean, we invest in financial services, which, yes, there's a strong link to NUMSA members that they buy insurance and medical aid and retirement funds, and we invested in those areas. And now our trajectory is towards a biotech, right, which will take the business to a global stage, in that we are now into pharmaceuticals.
What about renewable energy?
No, it's not an area that we've invested in. We think that I mean, when we came into the group, we had to invest internally generated cash flow. I think renewable energy is a space for major investors like asset management. So it's not an area that we have looked into.
I'd love your view, because we spoke to COSATU and SAFTU yesterday, and of course there's controversy around whether or not Eskom will be or is being privatized. Something is happening in that the generation arm that produces power is being opened up to renewable energy players, to a whole lot of people who can feed into the grid. So the view on many left organizations, and certainly both those federations yesterday, saying no, you know, Eskom should remain under government control, but for investors this is a great opportunity, and why shouldn't everybody be feeding into the grid and adding more power? I'd love to know what you think.
I think the conversation in the country about energy is sort of removed from the purpose for energy, right? I think we need energy in order to grow the economy. We need energy in order to solve the problem of unemployment, the problem of poverty in the country. And the question should be whether the strategies that are being proposed, are they talking to the outcome, right? And I find that we've missed the outcome. I think energy should be a supporting. It's a most important utility, in that all other utilities depend on it. I mean, if you want water, you're going to have to have energy in order to pump the water to the desired areas. But we are at a point where, as a country, the whole conversation of energy in terms of what source of energy should we be investing in is not linked to the type of economy we want. If we want the economy that is mining, that is industrial, right, you don't want to be overly invested in renewables, because you really cannot run industry with renewables. Renewables are important, they are necessary, they are an emerging technology. We need to continue to invest in them. We need to develop them, because I think in the future, when technology has advanced significantly, renewable will actually dominate. In fact, solar will actually dominate energy supply. But as for where we are now, I mean, you can even see from the reaction of Europe, which is having a crisis of energy, with Russia having throttled the supply of gas. They're not scurrying around saying that we're going to solve this with renewable energy. They're actually coming to Africa and saying, give us your coal, give us your oil, give us your gas.
But then is it a huge problem? I mean, despite the crunch, we are not even creating new coal-fired stations. We're not creating new energy right now. What would be the first task to solve this problem for you?
I think it depends where we are, right? I think Europe is having a crisis, but if you look at the crisis of Europe of possible energy hunger, right? it has been a permanent state for Africa, for the continent, right? And yet for Africa, the solution that has been proposed for us is renewable energy only, right? But yet when Europe has a problem, it is looking into our coal, our oil, and our gas, which they say that we must send it to them, which we should, right? Yeah. And you look at countries like China. I mean, China has been able to take 800 million people out of poverty in the past 20 years. And what are they doing now? They're investing in 13 coal power stations. So there's a question of where are you in your stage of development as a country. Right? Are you at the point where you've resolved all your social problems? Because we must all make a sacrifice towards the protection of environment, right? But we can't be alone as Africa, right? In fact, when you look at countries that are the most polluters, like the US and China, right? They are not leading in the manner that we're expected to lead, right? Yeah. We should play a role, but should we be leading? Should we be the ones that are going to rapidly decommission our coal power plants? I don't think so. Should we be investing concurrently in renewable energy? Definitely, yes, right? But how we should be investing in this is that we should continue to run the coal power stations, because everybody is, right? China is doing it, and the US is doing it. And at the same time, whilst we're running the economy, growing the economy, taking people out of poverty, we should be investing in renewables, right? So that there'll come a time when renewables are so developed and so efficient that we'll be at the same point where I don't use coal at home because electricity is actually easier to use than for me to have my own coal stove, right? So which means that transition will become natural, right? Just like a transition from wood to coal and now to electricity.
Okay, so let's build coal-powered stations at the same time as we build up renewable energy. Is that what you're saying? But right now, the bulk of the emergency procurement went to car power ships. That's held up in court. Yeah. So we need a new push. Just very quickly, what do you think about the ideas Eskom 2? Eskom 1 is saying it's bogged down by red tape, and it's not the one. The Minister, Gwede Mantashe, is the one who has to commission or set out the tenders or the commissioning for new power stations in the first place.
I think let me go back to the issue of coal. We also have gas from Mozambique, which we can actually bring into the mix ahead of coal, because some people believe that gas is really better than coal, right?
Yeah.
Which
I
also support.
Cleaner.
It's a little bit cleaner, right? But I'm not so sure by having another SOE if we're really solving a problem, right? Because I mean, we have an emergency, right? An emergency is that a lot of businesses are suffering. I mean, if you run a small business and you are not able to trade, you're not able to make you're not able to produce your goods, maybe you're a welding business, you've lost real day production and you're never going to recover the lost time. So I think we should be looking at the emergency to fix Eskom, because trying to build another SOE, maybe there's a need for it, right? But we are in an emergency now. An emergency does not, you don't solve an emergency with a long-term strategy.
And I do wonder what the need is. I mean, in the meantime, how do you solve a problem like Eskom? Okay, so commission new energy. But Eskom is facing a cash crunch. It said it's paying for wages that it can't afford. It may need 45 billion rand, so that's taxpayers' money that doesn't go elsewhere. And then it's saying that people with solar energy should actually pay nearly 1,000 rand, even if they don't get electricity. Do you believe, do you agree with the DA that that's extortionist? But it's really struggling to survive and keep the lights on. What do we do? Do we take away the debt? What do we do?
I think we need to look at the Eskom and put it into correct perspective and say, what is Eskom in South Africa, right? Eskom is a whole economy. Right. When the state is drawing 1.4 trillion rands out of the economy in taxes, right? Those taxes would not be possible without Eskom. If tomorrow we switched off Eskom, those taxes go down to zero, right? And therefore it then says, how much money should the state be investing in Eskom in order to realize a return? And their return is the taxes that they're able to levy on the people and companies that are actually making money, because there is Eskom. Right. So we have in as far as the levy, it is a problem that Eskom is going to experience in the future, right? And funny enough, it's a similar problem as the SABC is experiencing with
we're saying if you
multi-choice,
stream,
right?
pay your TV license.
Exactly, right. And the questions that the society should ask, right, is whether do you want a situation where the national assets like Eskom eventually lose the paying customers to a point where you now, in 10, 15 years, you are left with people who can afford to pay. Right?
Yeah.
And what sort of country are we building when you create this? Right? So we kind of have a multiplicity of problems meshed into one, right? And we don't have a clear-cut solution that prevents the unintended consequences. You can't blame a person who actually installs solar in their house, but they do that because they don't have an option. People are not buying solar for their own homes because it is cheaper than Eskom. No.
And they're paying a lot.
They're paying a lot.
And now they may have to pay Eskom.
And they may have to pay Eskom. So it's not fair. But what is the impact of all of these things? So the fact that we're not rapidly solving the power outage at Eskom, we're going to create a whole lot of other problems that we never had, like the situation where the people that can pay are going to go pay more for an alternative solution.
All right, so just adding to the sense of urgency, great chatting to you. I hope we can do it again. Khandani Msibi is CEO of 360 Global Solutions.